Indian foreign policy. ఇంకా determinants, institutions, continuity and change. అంతే కదా. What is foreign policy? Policy is an intervention, right? So what does foreign policy represent? Can we intervene into the sovereign affairs of the another country? Then what? Foreign intervention అన్నప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది? So foreign policy represents how to maximize your interest. In an international environment. Either through low politics or through high politics. Right? So low politics signify soft power. And high politics denote hard power. Right? So foreign policy is dynamic. And shaped by the strategic interest. The policy changes from country to country and situation to situation. We cannot have one single policy with respect to all countries. The needs of the neighborhood, are different. The needs of the neighborhood are different from the needs of the extended neighborhood. For example, India-Nepal relations are perceived. India-Nepal relations are perceived differently, say from India-America or India-China relations. Even though the relations differ, there is a broad framework under which the foreign policy objectives are identified. Objectives come with short-term orientation and the goal with a long-term. For example, the idea of Viksit Bharat or developed India, by 2047 is a long-term goal. And the short-term objectives are the incremental changes that help to attain the goal. So the determinants of foreign policy include, as David Mellon argues, M-E-L-O-N-E, David Mellon argues, are history, geography, capacities, and the leadership. Every foreign policy focus on maximizing the national interest. The history of the state shapes the policies. Indian history is represented by both spiritualism and realism. Kautilya's Arthashastra engages in promoting the realist imperatives. IMPERATIVES. There is another school relying on spiritualism as the focus of attention. So we have both the epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, promoting the realist and idealist tradition. The uniqueness of Indian history is its ability of co-optation. Realism and idealism coexist. In the historical past. Similarly, the geography. The geography includes both the continental security and the strategic location along with the endowed strategic resources. Which help in shaping the policies. A country endowed with fossil fuels, FOSSIL, fossil fuel, FUEL, or uranium, have a better opportunity to maximize their interest. Even strategically, India is a significant player in the maritime governance, of late, OFF-LATE, of late in the Indian Ocean. The continental security dominated India's realist perceptions for a long period. Because historically, India remained vulnerable to invasions from northwest. In the past, in the historical past, India's territories extended to Central Asian region. Central Asian region, beyond Afghanistan. We are well secured in the north through the presence of Himalayas. And the capacities are the third determining factor. Capacities includes the available human resources, the science and technological progress, the levels of literacy, the healthcare system, as well as the incidence of poverty. Because in the post-independent India, India's primary focus was on promoting science and technological development through state intervention. And economic development through Commonwealth. And finally, leadership, which provides a moral assertiveness in the domestic environment, but also skillful representation of interests in the external environment. So, non-alignment is a major instrument discovered to represent India's leadership role among the third world countries. The institutions which engage in shaping the foreign policies include the Union Parliament, assisted by Standing Committee on External Affairs, as well as the Parliamentary Committee on External Affairs. The policy objectives, external affairs. The policy objectives are deliberated in the process of parliamentary ratification. The other institutions include the Union Cabinet, led by the Prime Minister, who are pivotal in recognizing the foreign policy needs and promoting an appropriate policy like the Look East policy, Connect Central Asia policy, Look West policy, or Link West policy are some of the examples. The other institutions include the Ministry of External Affairs, which is the nodal agency, is the nodal agency, is assisted by the other ministries like the defense, finance, home affairs, and commerce. And with respect to the security, since post 1990, we have National Security Council assisting in developing the strategic requirements. The Cabinet Committee on Security which also includes the National Security Advisor, in shaping the security environment. The foreign policy also relies on the intelligence wing, incorporating their inputs in the development of the policy. And in the present, the foreign policy is also shaped by the respective state governments bordering the international border. India-Bangladesh relations are influenced by the West Bengal government. Similarly, India-Sri Lanka need the support of Tamil Nadu government. And with respect to Nepal, the Bihar government is consulted. Likewise, the constituent states in India also play a meaningful role. in the development of the policy. And with respect to continuity and change, there is both. From Nehru to Modi. Nehru is the architect of Indian foreign policy. Nehru is the architect of Indian foreign policy. Nehru was an idealist. And recognized the limitations of India. As an economically and militarily weak state. In comparison, militarily weak state in comparison to the major powers of the day. So Nehru's reliance on disarmament, universal disarmament, Nehru's reliance on universal disarmament showcase India as a reluctant power. So India has transitioned from a reluctant power to a responsible power. India has transitioned from a reluctant power to a responsible power to an emerging power, and today as a leading power. The objectives of Nehru were different from the present. Nehru's appeal towards universal disarmament identify the idealism of Nehru. So Indian foreign policy began on idealism and on the note of idealism. With Nehru insisting on a non-nuclear India. And Nehru's refusal to interfere into the internal affairs of the other country. the reluctant power status, and the principle of non-interference, dominated Nehru's worldview. Nehru's foreign policy focus was limited to continental security. The presence of Pakistan in the West and India being a peninsula is well protected. And in the north we had Himalayas safeguarding India. And India's vulnerability is in the east. Nehru entered into Panchsheel agreement. Nehru entered into Panchsheel agreement with China to secure Indian interest. And globally, the presence of two nuclear superpowers will prevent the escalation of crisis. And Pakistan was not recognized as a challenge to India's security. So Nehru focused on economic modernization, rather than military modernization. The only perceived threat was China. Through the annexation of Tibet. Otherwise, China was an extended neighbor, not an immediate neighbor. China was an extended neighbor, not immediate neighbor. But Nehru's idealism was shattered. With India-China war. bringing a shift in the foreign policy framework. So Lal Bahadur Shastri onwards, India shifted towards realism and modernizing the military. Unlike Nehru, Indira Gandhi intervened to create Bangladesh. And also conducted Pokhran nuclear test. Expressing the asserting role of India in South Asia. Realism is also found in Rajiv Gandhi. By sending Indian peacekeeping force to Sri Lanka. As well as India responding to the SOS from Maldives. To restore the regime. So foreign policy experienced a shift from Nehru to Rajiv Gandhi. From non-alignment to alignment. Because Indira Gandhi entered into Treaty of Friendship with Soviet Union. With the disintegration of Soviet Union, and the end of the Cold War, India had to make a critical choice. In the post-liberalized world. Either to join with the only superpower, America, or tread its own path. in promoting, tread its own path in promoting realignments. So, Indian foreign policy experienced a shift from non-alignment to alignment to de-alignment, de-alignment to realignment, from realignment to multi-alignment in the present, from realignment to multi-alignment in the present. Where India is part of multiple alignments like BRICS, BASIC, IPSA, Quad, G20, to name a few. Another important continuity in Indian foreign policy is with respect to strategic security. Nehru to Modi, we continue to rely on ad hoc response in the absence of a strategic document. Major changes occurred post-liberalization. Indian foreign policy which was mostly limited to South Asian region, started exploring outside the neighborhood. Partly to realize energy security and partly to reap the benefits of globalization. So under P.V. Narasimha Rao, we had this look east policy. Exploring energy in the east because of the war in the West. As part of the Gulf crisis. Similarly, P.V. Narasimha Rao was also instrumental in Look North policy, to develop India's outlook towards the newly independent Central Asian region, post the disintegration of Soviet Union. After P.V. Narasimha Rao, we have the Gujarat Doctrine. After P.V. Narasimha Rao, we have the Gujarat Doctrine, which further consolidated the extended neighborhood outlook. To include both continental and maritime extended neighborhood. To include both continental and maritime extended neighborhood. Apart from promoting non-reciprocal relationship within the neighborhood. Apart from promoting non-reciprocal relationship within the neighborhood. So India's sphere has expanded to include the continental neighborhood, stretching towards east, west and north. Sphere of influence included the continental neighborhood extending to the east, west and north, as well as the maritime neighborhood, covering South Africa to East Asia, the whole of Indian Ocean region, including Australia and Japan. Subsequently, under Vajpayee, it acquired a new dimension in promoting a tricontinental alliance identified as IPSA, India, Brazil and South Africa. All three have shared interests and aspirations. All three are democracies, multi-ethnic and multicultural societies. Striving to promote good governance. A IPSA fund is also created to help the least developed economies within these three continents to improve their capacities and promote good governance. Vajpayee also focused on changing the image of India from the official donor receiver to official donor giver. He also initiated confidence building measures. Within the neighborhood, specifically with Pakistan, by undertaking a bus journey to Lahore. Any attempt to reconcile is rewarded with an attack by the Pakistan military. Either through Kargil intrusion or through parliament attack. So Manmohan Singh has created history by entering into a civil nuclear agreement with America. His focus was more on integrating Indian economy with the economies of Southeast Asia, East Asia and Southeast Asia. He succeeded in promoting free trade agreements with ASEAN in goods and services. He was also instrumental in the Connect Central Asia policy, recognizing the opportunities India has in the Central Asian region. So the foreign policy of India has undergone transition from idealism to realism, from realism to pragmatism. So the globalized era coincides with India's pragmatism. Globalized era coincides with India's pragmatism. And with the coming to power of Modi, Indian foreign policy has attained new heights. He succeeded in the spread of India's soft power status globally. India is not only recognized as a smart power, but evolved into a sharp power where India's intervention matters. The positive intervention of India can influence the outcome. The positive intervention of India can influence the outcome in Ukraine crisis as well as the Palestinian crisis. Since Nehru India was open to the outside world for economic integrations or economic development. Don't say integration, development. But with respect to strategic requirements, we insist on bilateral engagement. Whether with respect to India-Pakistan dispute or India-China dispute. The position that India maintains is a peaceful negotiation through bilateral engagement. Accordingly, India entered into engagements. Accordingly, India engaged into Tashkent Agreement under Lal Bahadur Shastri and Shimla Agreement under Indira Gandhi. Even after Galwan crisis, Modi refused American intervention. And preferred to resolve through bilateral engagements. So this is a continuity that India has from Nehru to Modi. But unlike Nehru, Modi is not averse, A-V-E-R-S-E, averse, in participating as part of Quad or multilateral naval exercises like Milan. In the absence of any strategic document, ad hoc response continues. From Nehru to Modi. Neither Nehru anticipated China war, nor Modi anticipated Galwan war. So the pragmatism in Indian foreign policy helped to dehyphenate the Israel-Palestinian cause And India not only strengthened its relation with Israel, but consolidated its relations with other major countries. So Modi's alternate in I2U2, alternate in I2U2, India, Israel, United States and United Arab Emirates. I2U2 and the recent India, Middle East, Israel, Europe Economic Corridor. Are identified India's ascendancy in terms of economic power. So the RCEP, Regional Cooperation for Economic Partnership, led by China, is not well suited to India's interest. India proposed an alternate supply chain through India, Middle East, Israel, Europe corridor. Which is also partly a response to China's Belt and Road Initiative. So Modi's foreign policy has moved away from look east to act east. Because stability in ASEAN is central to India's security in Indian Ocean. So India is not shying away to be part of other like-minded countries. As a net security provider in Indian Ocean. So Indian foreign policy has undergone major twist with both continuity and change. Major change with both continuity and change. Idealism to pragmatism. To the growing India's soft power status, you can also add the Forum for Pacific Islands, Modi's initiative, the Forum for Pacific Islands, and Modi's another initiative, International Solar Alliance. And Modi's another very important initiative is blue economy. Which helped in promoting the Sagarmala project. Look into the questions.
Major features of India's foreign policy in the 21st century.
What are the major features of Indian foreign policy in 21st century? One major feature of Indian foreign policy in 21st century is multi-alignment. It does not mean we have given up non-alignment. Even in a situation of multi-alignment, we have not given up the situation of non-alignment. Because when it comes to critical decision making, we fall back on non-alignment. Second, India's growing stature as a largest global economy. India's growing stature even in maritime governance. And fourth, India's shift towards offensive realism, surgical strikes. Fifth, India's moral leadership as a sharp power. Sixth, India's growing stature as the world's largest democracy. Philosophical foundation. Indian foreign policy is influenced by Nehru Gandhi. Idealism, non-alignment is the basis of Indian foreign policy. The principles of Panchsheel, the ethical principles of Panchsheel are the guiding force of Indian foreign policy. Faith in UN is another feature of Indian foreign policy. But at the same time, Indian foreign policy also is aware of the realist imperatives. So as far as India's security is concerned, we never compromised. However ideal we remain. Disarmament, anti-colonial struggle, anti-racialism, ఇవన్నీ కూడా philosophical foundation. Anti-racism, anti-colonialism, disarmament. రియలిజం లేకుండా ఒక ఐడియలిస్ట్ వరల్డ్, యుఎన్ని ఒక రెస్పెక్ట్ తోటి చూసే వరల్డ్, కలెక్టివ్ సెక్యూరిటీని నమ్ముకున్న వరల్డ్ అది. అంటే కాంటియన్ ఎథిక్స్, పర్పీచువల్ పీస్ ఉంటుంది అనే ఆకాంక్షతో వచ్చిన వరల్డ్ వ్యూ అది.
Do you agree with the view that the Indian foreign policy would be being shaped by the neoliberal outlook?
Yes. Neoliberal outlook, yes. Because our policy considerations are influenced by structural adjustment program. World Bank, IMF, WTO regime. It is shaping our foreign policies. And inherently it has taken a turn towards majoritarianism, promoting the culture, majoritarian culture, to represent India's soft power status across the world through the use of information communication technology, social media. So culture is part of your soft power. Political values are part of your soft power. Political values like equality, democracy, right? Demanding reforms into Security Council. They are all part of your political values, representing your soft power.
Describe the structure and function of the National Security Council of India. What role does it play in the formulation of Indian foreign policy?
National Security Council is a post-liberalized innovation. We never had any National Security Council in the past. So National Security Council is initiated under P.V. Narasimha Rao. Prior to that, It was an ad hoc arrangement. Cabinet Committee on Security, which was monitoring the security situation. But when we felt the need for a security, so it is something that is constituted during the P.V. Narasimha Rao period. Thereafter, Vajpayee introduced National Security Advisor. Brijesh Mishra was the first National Security Advisor to India. So then it has become a practice of identifying a National Security Advisor to assist the cabinet in security dimension. And today we have Ajit Doval. Right? So this is the National Security Council comes with a specific function of maintaining internal and external security. So it is assisted, the council is assisted by a National Security Board, a National Security Agency, as well as the Intelligence Wing, Intelligence Bureau and Research and Analysis Wing. So Indian Prime Minister is the chairman of the National Security Council and other cabinet ministers as the members. Right? So this is not there something that from the beginning. In fact, Nehru did not have external affairs minister. Nehru was both the Prime Minister and external affairs minister. Under Nehru there was no foreign minister. Under Nehru there was no PMO. Nehru only operated through a private secretary. PMO is created by Lal Bahadur Shastri and consolidated under Indira Gandhi. And today Indian foreign policy is shaped by the PMO. More than anyone else. It is PMO which authors the document and which is accepted and followed by all other ministers, including the nodal agency, External Affairs Ministry.
Economic interest has emerged as the main component of India's foreign policy. Discuss the statement in the light of India's initiative to improve relations with China, Japan, and Central Asia.
Repeat.
Economic interest has emerged as the main component of India's foreign policy. Discuss the statement in the light of India's initiative to improve relations with China, Japan, and the Central Asian republics.
Central Asian region. Right? So talk about Lookist policy. Lookist policy has come after the introduction of globalization, where India recognized the potential for economic integration in East. So Lookist policy 1 to Lookist policy 2. Then finally Actist policy. Right? Similarly, we had Connect Central Asia policy with respect to integrating with the Central Asian region, for which India is also part of connecting to Central Asia through Chabahar port. Connect Central Asia policy visualize India connecting to Central Asia through Chabahar port in Iran, because Afghanistan is not an immediate neighbor, extended neighbor. So we cannot reach Afghanistan without cutting through Pakistan. So Chabahar port helps in India's international north-south transport corridor, reaching out to the Central Asian region, which has the potential for promoting India's economic advancement. And as far as China is concerned, India's dependency remains, even with hostilities persisting. The trade deficit has extended beyond 100 billion, even post Galwan war. because of India's dependence on Chinese product for India's economic growth and development. Right? So India-China relations have gone to a next level only under liberalization. Otherwise, after 1962, India-China did not have any contact. Vajpayee tried to mend the relationship, but actual relationship blossomed only since 1993, post India's liberalization, when India recognized that China cannot be ignored. అయిపోయినాయా? రేపు ఏముంది టాపిక్?
Institutions of policy making.
India's contributions to the non-alignment movement will continue tomorrow.